and welcome to Getting To Know ACS with Tracy
and Jasmine.
And today we have with us April Walters, and she is from Army Emergency Relief. So today April is going to talk about PCSing and how AER can help us. So April, just give us a little background about yourself, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Okay, so my name is April Walters. I am an Army Emergency Relief Officer here at Fort Bliss. Fantastic community, amazing ACS, and I love Fort Bliss and El Paso.
Whoop, whoop, great endorsement.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting like full on swing into PCS season. Mm-hmm. So, there's usually two PCS seasons. You have the one that happens at the beginning of the year, and then you have the one that happens during the summer, when everybody's waiting for the kids to get out of school or whatever the case may be. So what are some of the things, because we've had AER on before, and they kind of talked about what AER does in general. Mm-hmm. So how can AER help with people who are PCSing? PCSing is a permanent change of station.
Good, yeah. So PCSing, how AER can help when we have soldiers who are getting ready to leave Fort Bliss, PCS outside, we can assist with their lodging, their food, and their fuel on the way to their new duty station.
Okay.
When we have soldiers PCSing into Fort Bliss, welcome to Fort Bliss. Also, we would be able to assist with things like initial deposit and rent on that new place that they're looking at staying.
Okay.
Would those be like loans or grants, or is that determined on like case by case as well?
So PCS category of assistance is generally a loan category.
Okay.
And the reason is because when we're looking at things like fuel and food, the government will usually reimburse for those things.
I see.
Okay. So you're saying that PCSing out. So let's focus a little bit on that. Mm-hmm. When somebody is leaving Fort Bliss, and you said that you can help them with lodging and that type of thing, how does that work? Since you said the government does usually reimburse them for that, so how does that work?
So AER, as far as PCSing, we would actually be the third stop when it comes to funding. And that would be first if the service member has a government travel card.
Okay.
Then they would first use that, of course. Mm-hmm. If they don't have that, then they might look into a PCS advance with military finance.
Okay.
If for whatever reason they don't have that availability to them, then they would come to AER for assistance.
Oh, okay.
We would assist with the PCSing outside of Fort Bliss about 3 days prior to their PCS date.
Okay.
Based on their DA-31, their leave form.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 days out when you're leaving.
Correct.
And so when you're leaving Fort Bliss, you're going to help them get funding to stay at hotels or whatever the case may be. Also gas money. So that's awesome that you can help them with the gas. Mm-hmm. And then you said also, do they get loud help me out. I got a little tongue-tied there. Lodging. Mm-hmm. So you can help them out with lodging as well.
Correct.
Okay. So aside from you get to your new duty station, say they come here to Fort Bliss, so you're going to help them as far as getting a place to stay. How does that work?
Yeah, so if they're coming into Fort Bliss, usually PCSing in, we see the most requests would be for like initial deposit and rent. That could be in military housing, that could be in an apartment, a home they're looking at renting. A lot of times there's a hefty deposit on that lease agreement, and that's where AR would be able to assist with providing that deposit that they may not necessarily have after an expensive PCS.
Okay. And I think you touched on something that's very important for our listeners to know. You mentioned even if they're getting housing.
Correct.
So a lot of times people are under the assumption that, okay, I'm going to be living on post, so I don't have to worry about initial deposit. But that's not necessarily the case.
Correct. So here at Fort Bliss, and I think most military installations, upon move-in, they're required a prorated rent for that month. So oftentimes we see service members who maybe aren't projecting that expense, and then after they get to their new duty station, even with a government travel card, maybe they're falling short of having that amount for that deposit, and that's where AER can help.
Okay, because now housing is privatized.
Correct.
And so that's why they're requiring, just like if you were to rent outside somewhere else, that's why they're requiring you to have that initial deposit. So for those of you who are PCSing, keep in mind that even if you're coming on, planning on living on post, you may still be required to have a deposit, just like if you were to rent from somewhere else,
Yes.
in the private sector. And so AER can also help with that as well.
We can, and we would need the lease agreement. So typically for initial deposit and rent, we would need the lease agreement. If they're PCSing in, we would need their orders, their leave form, their latest end of month LES, our application, our budget. So there's some forms that they're going to need. But really, it's pretty easy for initial deposit because even on post housing, they have a form that they give.
Okay.
Showing the service member's name, the date that they're moving in, the amount of the prorated rent to get them into that home, which is our goal.
Okay. And then, you know what? When I need my pen and paper,
Right? We both forgot it
like,
today.
Jasmine, that's your job to bring the pen and paper.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I know here at Fort Bliss or here in El Paso, sometimes when you get a rental property, you may not have like the refrigerator or the stove or something like that. It may not be there. Can AER help in those circumstances?
We can help. We would have to look at the lease agreement to ensure that those things are not included in them.
Okay.
So oftentimes, for example, the washer and dryer,
Yes.
even on post housing, they don't have that. And if the service member doesn't have it, they've never had it, then we could look at assisting with the purchase of that.
Okay. I didn't know about the washer.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Housing doesn't have washer and dryers in it.
From my tracking, no.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I think some duty stations may, but here at Fort Bliss, the housing that I've seen and we've had service members rent doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And then a lot of the apartments don't either. Well, the ones that are like affordable.
Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me that the ones that the apartments don't have it. But I was just surprised that. See, I learned something new too.
Yeah.
I'm getting to know
I-
Fort Bliss.
Right.
Yeah, and don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure,
But I mean,
certain,
just-
but
We
yeah.
might have to
Just
do
in
a
case.
poll.
I know, but just in case,
Yeah.
that's a good thing to think about. So, because that's going to save them money.
Right.
So, I don't know, how does it work? I heard a rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not. But do you help with furniture and that type of thing?
Furniture. Okay, so for just PCSing simply from duty station to duty station, we wouldn't help with furniture.
Okay.
It's not something that we would assist with, maybe because you want a new couch or yours is old kind
Yeah,
of thing.
because you know what, I'm moving. I need a new couch.
Right,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So the furniture, the essential furnishings, as far as AER assistance goes, is a little bit geared more toward maybe your first marriage. So you're
Okay.
newly married, you're moving out of the barracks, you don't have, one couch, you don't have one dresser, you don't have, a table and chairs for the kitchen.
Right.
The furnishings are very, very limited, so they're the essential furnishings.
Okay.
So we're not talking about entertainment centers or
Right,
giant,
right.
bedroom suites.
I can't get an 86-inch TV.
Sorry. It's not a necessity.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, with the furnishings, it's limited. But then that also kind of goes in place with maybe a single soldier
Okay.
who lives in the barracks, who is pregnant and maybe moving out.
Oh, okay.
Has
So-
this been a thing for always? Like, has this always been a thing?
Always, I'm not sure, but it is
Okay.
something that we can help with the furnishings for this.
That
You didn't know that.
I
When you-
didn't. I
when you
was
were-
out here just like, oh, let me just buy a new couch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even someone, you don't necessarily have to be married, like you said. If they're pregnant and have to move out of the barracks, then you guys can assist with that as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So when and just because, like, you tell me you can help me with some furniture, I'm going to Ashley. So, so we
Yeah.
have to be they need to be kind of mindful about where they're getting the furniture
Correct.
from.
Yeah, they need to be modestly priced.
Okay.
We do have checks and balance with everything that we do.
Okay.
We're going to require supporting documentation for everything. So if you come in with a $3,000 bed, we need a modestly priced item. So we're probably going to say, okay, we need to look at a different option for you.
Okay, you need to go where you can get the whole furniture set for $5.99.
Right, and we're not. Yes.
A house full of furniture.
No. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to pick and choose where you can go shopping or what you can do. But just keep in mind, it's not going to be anything extravagant, modestly priced. We just want to get you from sleeping on the floor maybe into a mattress.
Right.
So, do you guys help with people moving out? So, when they go to move out of the house and they have to do like the fixes if they mess something up. I don't know what
the
that's called.
repairs?
Yeah, but some people, they damage the house.
Oh, yeah,
and-
like somebody
damages.
might have punched a hole in the wall
Yeah.
or something
So
like that.
we do not.
You need to seek family
That's not
advocacy.
something that we would assist with.
Okay.
Okay.
So sign up for anger management classes so you can avoid that. Like, I'm just kidding.
Now, sometimes that deposit would go toward that. So,
Yeah,
for
okay.
example, they're putting a deposit in an apartment off post, moving in. We helped with that initial deposit. Maybe they don't get that deposit back at the end because
see.
of the damages, but we wouldn't traditionally help with damages to a home.
Okay, so if they didn't come for the initial deposit, then that may not be covered. I guess that's right.
Yeah,
Got-
so I mean, it just depends. A lot of times, service members, they might have a damage when they leave, to blinds even.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's not it within our categories of
Okay.
assistance.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned categories. So what are the actual categories of assistance?
So we have a lot. We have over 30 categories
Oh,
of
wow.
assistance.
Oh,
So
okay.
to list
So-
them all, we might be here a while.
Do you help with moving pets?
We do not at this time. We do not.
okay.
More to follow.
More to follow. So hey, people,
Oh, maybe.
maybe.
At this time, we do not assist with the movement of pets. So that's something that a service member, when they get their orders, would have to start projecting and saving for. And that's kind of where our financial readiness piece comes in.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm glad you kind of mentioned that. So the whole projecting, because most of the time the service members are going to get information that, get their orders. What is it? 6 months at least out that they're going to be moving. So you guys with the financial readiness piece, and I know you're not in financial readiness, but you guys work hand in hand. They can come in and help them to set up a budget so that when they get to their new duty station, they already have that initial deposit. They already have the funds to maybe purchase a washing machine and dryer where they wouldn't have to come to you guys to get a loan. Would that be correct? I don't know why I
Absolutely.
can't talk today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a budget is a fluid thing. So budgets change for soldiers. There's a lot of things that go on within any household, whether it's getting married or having a child or PCSing to a new duty station.
Right.
Most duty stations, they're not the same. So some are very expensive to live at. Others,
Hawaii.
yeah. So others are, relatively cheap.
Right.
So often updating that budget is really important, and that's where financial readiness can come in, especially prior to a PCS.
Right.
They can look at the cost of living at the new duty station. They can look at if there's going to be any COLA, maybe rebudgeting, looking at somewhere to live, and so the service member and the family can start projecting the expenses on it. And then really set that goal. If we know we're going to need about this much money because this PCS is expensive,
Right.
then let's start a savings plan. So that's where our financial readiness team is fantastic.
Okay. And then especially as you said, it's fluid.
Yes.
And if you're driving, because like right now gas prices are going up and up, or they're fluctuating, because you may be leaving from El Paso going to, say, the East Coast where prices are really high, as far as gas goes,
Right.
and the West Coast. Well, any coast besides, we're not on a coast.
Go anywhere else.
Anywhere else in
If
gas.
you're leaving Texas.
Yeah, and
a long
depending on
drive.
where you're, it takes days to get out of Texas. And we're on the way over in the corner. So anyway, so it is important for them to think about, that fluidity.
Yeah.
Is that a
No,
word?
it is. It's very important. It's very important. We recently had a family going to DC. So the DC prices for initial deposit and rent on the other end that they're looking at is very high.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. Your BAH will change, but there's still a lot of moving pieces to PCSing.
Right.
We could help, like I said, with the fuel. So, for example, if we have a service member PCSing from El Paso, maybe to Fort Bragg, we have a system that we put in place based on the orders and the leave address and the PCS address or the new duty station, how much gas we're allotted based on that vehicle.
Oh, okay.
So it goes by miles, the vehicle, all of that, and then we can kind of figure how much gas that we're able to approve.
I didn't even think about that, the type of car that you're driving.
Right.
Because if I have a big giant truck versus my little Kia,
Yeah.
Right.
you're going to be spending, a lot of money on gas or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And so do you guys help with Diddy moves where they're moving themselves?
We could, but we would have to have something showing that they filed for that.
Okay.
Typically, when we help with maybe like a U-Haul is when our service members are brand new. So it's when their first duty station, maybe they're not authorized that move from their hometown. Also, we have service members who are going from like reserve to active duty, permanent active duty orders, where they maybe weren't authorized to move as well. So we would assist with that U-Haul.
Okay.
So we would just get the quote and work with them to be able to help to move their family here.
Okay. So basically, there's, like you said, because you guys have over 30 categories.
Right.
So basically, AER is a stop. If you're wondering if you can get assistance, the best case is for them to contact you guys.
Absolutely.
And come in and say, hey, can you guys help us with this, or can you help us with that? And then after they sit down with one of the counselors, then they would be able to figure out, okay, yes, we can help you with this expense versus no, we can't.
Absolutely, yes. So my goal and my guidance really to anyone that comes in, especially our NCOs and senior leaders, is if you're unsure if AER can help, send them to us.
Right.
We're gonna talk to them. We're gonna get the conversation going. We're going to try to understand the situation that they're in, and if maybe they're asking for a category that we can't help directly with, through that conversation, we can kind of figure out areas that we can help.
Okay.
Which then they can take that money
Right.
that they would have spent on the other item
Correct.
and move it over to what you guys couldn't help with.
Right.
So that's awesome.
Yeah,
So we
good.
love Army Emergency Relief.
Yes.
You know, I think it's one of those things for the soldiers, you know, they donate to that. It's their money. So it's really soldiers helping soldiers.
Yes.
You know, and I just want to say again, with the campaign, and you can speak on that a little bit. I know is the campaign over?
The campaign was extended worldwide, so
Okay.
it's still ongoing until the 15th of June.
Okay, and so it's easy to donate because they can even go to the shopettes, and on the little credit card thing it says, do you want to donate to AER?
So that is a good donation piece. However, it's not directly related to the campaign.
Oh, really? Okay, that's just donations in general.
Yes.
Okay, see, I learned something new.
So that actually, so that actually runs year round. That's
okay.
not directly donated to the campaign, so those numbers don't actually go into the campaign.
Okay,
Oh, I see.
okay,
They still go to AR. They still help our soldiers.
okay.
It's just when we're looking at the numbers and the breakdown of everything, it's
Okay.
not combined.
So when that number is not gonna help move that
That
chip,
thermometer.
that thermometer up to the top. Okay,
It's not,
Okay,
no.
so if you guys haven't donated to the Army Emergency Relief Campaign, you know, do that because you're helping out your fellow soldiers
Yeah.
and their families and retirees and widows and all that stuff. So definitely good cause. If you're looking for something to donate to, hey, help.
That's right. Army Emergency Relief.
There you go. Get that plug in.
Hey, 90
Okay.
cents of every dollar. 90
Yep.
cents of every dollar goes directly back into the pockets of your soldiers. So,
And that, I didn't know that either.
Yep.
I'm just learning so much today. Thank you, April.
hey, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's
I
Jasmine over here
I was still shocked on the post housing
that you got
being
put it on
privatized.
deposit.
Like, it's stuck. Like,
And by the way, just disclaimer, she's not crying over here. She has bad allergies, but she'll be okay.
it's so dry. Yes.
But anyway, April, thank you so much for coming. And our tradition here, we can call it a tradition
We can,
now.
yeah.
Okay. So our tradition here is at the end of each podcast, we like to ask our guests what brings them joy. So what brings you joy working for ACS?
So that's a pretty easy one, actually. It's just helping our soldiers and their families. Army Emergency Relief, we have a lot of tough situations come through our doors.
Okay.
A lot of interesting dynamics and a lot of things that can break your heart. And just being able to provide that sense of relief and that little bit of a stress reliever in a time that everyone's pretty stressed, especially with the ongoing field problems and deployments and the Army life. Being able to ease that pain or that financial issue just a little bit, that makes it worth it every day.
I love that
awesome, yeah.
answer. It's like that was so good.
That was a good one. We might have to start ranking these.
I know, we're gonna
I don't think it's allergies anymore.
No, you brought a genuine
Yes.
tear to her eye now. That was so sweet. I love it though. Anyway, again, thank you for
Yes,
coming,
thank you.
and we appreciate you. We appreciate what AER is doing for the community, and thank you for coming and kind of explaining to our audience what you guys can do during this PCS season. So with that being said, we're going to end our little podcast today. And so thanks for listening. This is Tracy.
And Jasmine. Don't forget to hit subscribe and click on that bell. Bye.
Bye.